What do you think of the writing on the new Doctor Who?
I watched a couple of Tennant things the other day. I thought, well, this is all great fun. They are all obviously having a great time and the story's rattling along. But there was all kinds of stuff thrown in. I remember a routine about Inspector Morse and Lewis, Fear, which was a bit of fun, but what the hell was it doing in Doctor Who? I haven't watched very much of the latest stuff. Russell, who I shouldn't call Russell, as I don't know him, and have never met him, is what I call a first draft writer. He sits down in the heat of the moment, and churns out something that's delightful and inventive and wonderful. But writing's not about that. It's about going back into the script and cutting it, and shaping it. The problem is, Russell will put a first draft in the studio, because he can. He's in charge.
Hold on. How do you know he does that?
By watching the show. You can see its first draft stuff surely.
What about the humor like the lots of Planet Have an Earth gag?
What that joke does, is stop you dead, and you think about it for the next 8 beats of the scene. It's such a silly line. It's not even funny, because we are not talking about North and South, we're talking about accents. It raises questions about the nature of the Doctor, that you don't want raised, if you're telling the story properly. Actually, why does he have a northern accent? It's not north of Gallifrey, it's quite clearly the northwest of England, which by the way, is not a planet, so the joke doesn't work on that basis. It's not even silly in the Douglas Adams sense. It's actually wrong for the story that you're trying to unfold.
Aren't you guilty of taking Doctor Who too seriously?
You can never take writing of any kind too seriously. I mean, comedy's got to be very serious. If you break the rules of comedy, you stop being funny, for God's sake.
Would you agree that Doctor Who has more emotional depth now than you injected in those days?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Tennant was written up as the Hamlet of our times, and I can believe that, but I don't see it in his portrayal of Doctor Who. I get the feeling from watching Tennant that here is an actor who hasn't got a character to play. All this mugging and all this sketch playing makes him a different character in each scene. It's like an actor pouring energy into a leaky vessel. I don't wholly blame Tennant. He runs around mugging, getting laughs where he can and being horrified. And that's okay. Even Tom, a great actor of the old school, was not above mugging and playing direct to the camera. But you had a sense of consistent character. The key thing in Doctor Who is gravitas. But there has to be a mind that can stop and analyze, and can see what you don't see. What do you think?
The exact opposite. The 10th Doctor uses his mugging and humor as a mask to conceal his loneliness and loss. And he has gravitas to burn.
Really? I get the loneliness. But it's not the loneliness of Doctor Who, it's the loneliness of an actor without a part.
You're a bad man, sir. K9 and the Sonic Screwdriver remain very current, very popular delights. Don't toy sales alone prove that people love those creations?
Yes, marketing people love them.
But clearly the people buying them love them.
Well, maybe, but that's the death of the story. Stories aren't everything. There are other things in the world besides stories. If your business is Sonic Screwdrivers, then God's sake, let's have Sonic Screwdrivers. If your business is stories, then the Sonic Screwdriver is what you don't need. There's no narrative in a shelf of Who memorabilia, but maybe it is satisfying in some way. That's absolutely fine, it's just not the game that I'm in. This is a good interview, by the way. You're asking the right questions and I'm offering absolutely brilliant answers.
But aren't they useful for, say, escaping a locked room?
But if you introduce it, for that, you've quite literally lost the plot. You see, the key is your question. If getting through the door is boring, let's not have it. What the hell is the door doing there? If getting through the door is going to be really interesting, then let's make it interesting. Let's not take out a Sonic Screwdriver.
But sometime you might need a door. For instance, when the Doctor is incarcerated.
No, you don't. You don't need stuff that you don't need. It's wrong to put the Doctor in a cell if him getting out isn't going to be very interesting. Whereas if you're going to play a psychological trick on a guard, you have the makings of a scene. Never write anything that isn't a scene. Hopefully I haven't been too outspoken.
You probably have. I'll give you the chance to say something nice about the current Doctor Who. Are you fundamentally happy it's back on our TV screens?
Well, on a purely practical level, it stimulates DVD sales. So yes. I'm also immensely impressed that Russell T Davies could take a show like that, which had fallen like the rotten tree at the bottom of my garden, and bring it back to life in an amazing way.
Splendid.
It's just a shame he has to call it Doctor Who.